by vegetarianism. Can everyone see my PowerPoint screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thanks. Okay, so our learning focus, what we'll do is we'll understand the scriptural, scientific, and the economic basis of a clean dietary lifestyle. When I'm talking about scriptural, it is not just about the Vedic scriptures like the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and the, Upanishads, things like that. I'm talking about scriptures of all major faith like Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism. What does that speak about a dietary lifestyle? Then we'll understand the science behind, the physiognomy, the human physiognomy vis-a-vis meat eating and the vegetarian, the herbivore. And then, of course, the economic basis. It's not just the cost of meat that we go and purchase in a store, but also importantly, the cost it has not on the individual, but also the entire community and the environment. Then we'll speak about the Bhoga Prasadam equation. Bhoga Prasadam equation, not just limited to the Sanatan Dharma, but across all faith. How does this work? And then, of course, QA group discussion. Though it is saying point number 3, but let's have this as an interactive session. Before I get into it, we have, especially for the newcomers, there is our culture that we say a small little prayer, and this is taking the blessings and acknowledging gratitude to all the teachers whom we've learned. We call it the Guru Parampara. So I'll say a short prayer in Sanskrit, and then we will begin the program. Om Agnantimirandasya Kyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parichana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Swami Namine. Hare Krishna. So, before I begin, I'd like to give credit to His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj. He is one of my Shiksha Gurus. My Diksha Guru is His Holiness Radhanath Swami. But Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj, he's the one who has nurtured my family's Krishna consciousness from the early days in the 90s. There were so many questions, and he used to so patiently come over at home and one-on-one, and especially on Bhoga and Prasadam. Why Bhoga? Why not? What's the big deal? When plants have life, animals have life, you're still eating. So taking us through all that and whatever instructions and whatever I have learned, and also through association in the Vaishnav Sangha, understanding this basis that goes beyond the philosophy, but actually practical application. What are the difficulties? How easy it is? That's what we'll cover today. So, all glories to His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj. So, a clean dietary lifestyle. First, let's examine what are simple truths. Okay, what is a truth? So there is a fact, correct? Based on the fact, there are certain choices we make, and then there are certain results that we get of the choices that we make. This is common across anything and everything that we do. There will be something which is a fact. We make a choice based on that fact, and then we have the consequence related to our choices. What is fact? To live, life form depends on other life forms. That is a fact, right? So we may be meat eaters having a non-vegetarian diet. So it's, fish or chicken, whatever it is a life form. Similarly, plants, fruits are also life forms. We are also life forms. So if we look around us in nature, every life form depends on another life form for its sustenance. A tiger will hunt a goat or some cattle. Similarly, human beings exist on other life forms. The plant is a life form, also depends on other life forms. All these little insects, and then with the soil, over a period of time, it gets fossilized, and all the nutrients it extracts. So every life form depends on other life forms. Now we have a choice, depending when it comes to eating. Do we eat to live and thrive, or do we live to eat and die? Just ask yourself this question. Every morsel that I'm putting in my mouth, what is that purpose? Is the purpose just for the body and sustenance? And then, okay, someday I'm going to pass away. Or whatever I'm putting in my body, not only just the physical sustenance, but also my mental, my emotional, and most importantly, my consciousness. How can it thrive? So that's the choice that we have. Most of us, we come in the second category. We live to eat. That's the choice we make. And what is the result? The result is we are what we eat. It's a fact. What we eat is not just doing the physiognomy, affecting the physiognomy. You eat fatty foods, what happens? Cholesterol. You eat very spicy food, what happens? Your entire digestive system is affected. So we are what we eat, literally. So now there are these diet style. We're all very familiar with it. There's a herbivore, which is plants and bovines. Carnivore, omnivore. It's, both plant and flesh is what the omnivore eats. So like, let's say a certain type of simians, the monkey family. Carnivore, we know tiger, dog, cat, and herbivores, of course, cow, sheep, donkey, horse. Now, there is another fourth category. Now, we humans specially fall in this category, and only humans is a special category. Sometimes we say we are herbivores. Sometimes, it's a carnivore, and, mostly omnivore. Both chalte hai. Flesh also and vegetables also, plant-based. Human is the only species which is having gluttony, unregulated. कुछ भी खाओ, कैसे भी खाओ, eat anything, whatever it is, chalega. So this comes under gluttony, and not only unnecessary things that we consume, but unwanted. It's just like crazy, and we can see that you take a bag of grain and put it out in the open. The bird, the hen, whatever will pick up how much it wants to satisfy its hunger. But a human being will pick up that whole sack of grains and hoard it away. Gluttony. So this is what is the 4 types of dietary lifestyles. Now, what is the effect a diet has on us? This dietary effect has an tremendous impact on our consciousness. Now, we know that there are 3 modes which govern our thinking, our consciousness. That's in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And food is also classified in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Not just food, even time. From the morning, everyone has 24 hours in the day. From the morning through night, the entire 24-hour cycle, there is mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. These are the dominant forces. So the dietary effect is it affects these three aspects of our consciousness. Now let's see what the scriptures say. First of all, let's understand our scriptures' reality or mythology. Of course, when the Britishers invaded India, India is a country which has, you could say it is several countries in one big landmass. Languages are different, customs are different, cultures are different, cuisines are different. The way a potato is cooked in Maharashtra is completely different than how it is cooked in Bengal or in Punjab or in Tamil Nadu or in Bihar. It's completely different. So what was happening is that each place is unique in its own self. The only common thread was the faith. So the British had a policy of divide and rule. So if you break the backbone, then it gets splintered. So they started calling the sacred texts of the Sanatan Dharma of the Vedic civilization as mythology. And the explanations that they gave is that, oh, have you ever seen a monkey fly carrying a mountain, like Lord Hanuman Ram Leela, right? However, if you look at the Old Testament and even the New Testament, Lord Jesus Christ walked over water. So the same question can be asked, have you seen anyone walk on water? And the same explanation or the justification which comes about Lord Jesus walking on water, the exact same is applicable even to Lord Hanuman. But sadly, the practitioners of the Vedic culture, which was drilled into the head that it is mythology, generations to even now, so many in the present generation also believe that, oh, these are just stories and it is not factual, or it could be allegorical, some kind of a metaphor to explain some kind of a philosophy. So what happens is, whether something is reality or mythology, we need to understand that we have something called perception. We don't see things as they are. We see things through our mind. Eye is just a gateway or a portal to get the external stimuli. And our mind is the one which processes it. Of course, the brain works and all, but it's the mind which tells what the result of that is. So those are called perceptions. Perceptions is how we see something and not we see the thing for how it is. So when all these perceptions, you multiply it by 0, that means you get rid of all perceptions, all notions, what you're left with is the absolute truth. When we come to the absolute truth, you have to understand what is the purpose. My dear friend Krishnanamanand Prabhu from the ICNJ Sangha, he had mentioned information is meant for transformation. Just think about it. There's so much information. Now we have information overload. So much stuff is coming all around from your computer, from your TV, from your handheld mobile device. So many, it's almost 24/7. It's almost overwhelming. What happens is all this thing is getting stored out here. But unless and until it doesn't bring about a change for the betterment of yourself or the betterment for others, of what uses all that information. So what it means is that information, knowledge, when applied, practiced, practical knowledge brings about realization, and that leads to transformation, changing the status quo. How to understand it? How do we understand these scriptures? It requires faith. Why do you need faith? We need faith because it is talking about stuff which is beyond our comprehension. Since birth, we have been trained, and it's just one little boundary that we have. That's it. All we are talking about is matter, energy, and how it is related. Everything boils down to that. But now when we're talking about scriptures, it goes not just matter and energy, but beyond. That's where we need faith. Faith is not something which is religious, of course, it's synonym with religious or a particular sectarian, Christianity, Islam, we call it faith. The person is from Muslim faith or a Hindu faith. But faith is something intrinsic to every living entity. In absence of faith, you cannot function. Tomorrow morning, you'll leave for work, you'll sit in your car, you'll get out on the freeway, or you'll get out on your local street. You have faith that the person who's coming from the other side of the traffic will not just swerve crazily into your lane and cause harm to you. You have faith. You don't even know who that person is. When you take a flight, you have faith in the crew. Do you know them? Do you know what state of mind they are in? But you have faith. So this faith is intrinsic. Without faith, we cannot function. Now that same faith needs to be applied when we're talking about scriptures. And you need a teacher. Anything in life, we need a teacher. We needed a teacher who held a hand and taught us how to write, who taught us our ABCs. We grow, elementary, middle, whatever, college, PhD. There's always a teacher. Now, there are two ways of getting knowledge. One is the ascending, where we observe and then we try to figure it out on our own. That's kind of a trial and error basis. But when it is in the descending form from a person who's already been there and done that, that is a sure shot way of understanding. So with faith and a bona fide practitioner, a teacher, also known as a guru, that brings about perfection. That's when we understand the scriptures as they are. Hari Kishore Prabhu says scriptures are not text, they are context. But what context is not based on my limited understanding? What the practitioner, someone who has been there and done that. That's how we understand the scripture. And when we follow this and we know what the outcome is, it is the alignment of the body, mind, and the soul. There's a big mantra, work-life balance, work-life balance. People are working crazy, chasing some dream, whatever that dream may be. But we only focus on the body, we only focus on the mind. But who we really are, the spirit soul, is completely ignored, oblivious to that. So if there is a disalignment, it's only natural there is disharmony, and we can see the turmoil within and the turmoil outside. So when we understand the scriptures in this way, what happens? It helps align the body, mind, and the soul. The spirit also, some people call the soul the spirit. And that brings about liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from all the strife. Liberation from feeling incomplete. Liberation from having momentary spurts of happiness. Something which is constant and which is exponentially increasing. That's what the outcome is. So what do the scriptures say about diet? Let's see what Islam says. O sons of wisdom, do not turn your stomachs into graveyards for animals. In fact, this particular line was used by George Bernard Shaw, a great English playwright. And we used to study his essays in high school literature. O sons of wisdom, do not turn your stomach into graveyards for animals. And George Bernard Shaw was a vegetarian. And he was asked, why don't you eat meat? And he replied, madam, my stomach is a stomach, not a graveyard for dead animals. Now, this is what in the Hadith. Hadith is basically the bona fide teacher who's putting in context what Islam says. Christianity, incidentally, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad instructed himself, Prophet Muhammad himself was a vegetarian. His diet consisted of dates and fruits, honey. He didn't partake in meat eating. Of course, there is another process in Islam where they have Bakri and all, but there's a philosophy behind it. We tend to forget what the purpose is and just get stuck in the ritual. But that's okay. That's across every faith, including Hinduism, Christianity, and all that. In Hinduism, ghanti bajate hum, ting, 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 ting. We go to the temple, you ring that big ghanta on top. We bow down, we offer agarbatti, we offer arti. Just ritualistic. My father is doing it, his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, everyone's doing it. So I'm doing it mechanically. But there's a philosophy behind it and there's a science behind it. And when we understand that, it becomes more meaningful, that context. What does Christianity say? God gave man dominion over all animals. What does dominion mean? Dominion means caretaking. They are your children, caretaking. That is what dominion is. Here's what it says in Genesis. I've given you plant yielding seeds, every tree with fruit in its fruit. You shall have them as food. What does Buddhism say? Buddhism, of course, you know, is equated with non-violence, ahimsa. To become vegetarian is to step in the stream which leads to nirvana. How deep this is. Let the disciple refrain from eating meat. The eating of meat extinguishes the seed of great kindness. If you know, a few slides back, I said it affects our consciousness. It affects our consciousness. It robs us of compassion. Of course, now you may say, I'm a meat eater, but I'm compassionate. But that compassion is only at a surface level. When the push comes to shove, there is a deep violence underneath that. Hinduism, whoever can control the urges, you know, the mind, the tongue, the belly, and the genitals all come in a straight line. So if you can control the urges of the tongue speaks and the tongue tastes, eats. You can control the belly, urges of the belly, and consequently the urges of the genitals, and then finally the mind. And when the mind is controlled, it is your greatest friend or it is your worst enemy. So what does Hinduism say? Bhagavad Gita 9.26, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, Yome Bhaktya Prayachiti, Tad Aham Bhakti Uparitam, Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. So Bhagavad Gita is a manual for life, if I may call it that. Literally anything and everything, question and answers, is answered. Whatever mankind has, it answers that. So on diet, it says is offer me a leaf, fruit, water, flower. This is what Hinduism says. What does Zoroastrianism say? It explicitly promotes vegetarianism. Be plant eaters so that you may live long, keep away from the body of cattle. What does Sikhism say? The official code of Sikh conduct prohibits eating of meat. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, what did he say? I forget that Doha. In Sikhism, they have Doha, like, you know, 2 lines. But basically, the context is that just as blood stains on a pure white cloth look so ghastly, how can our consciousness remain pure when we are consuming blood? So eating meat is like, you know, splattering a pristine, pure consciousness with that blood splatter. So these are some major faiths, what they speak about meat eating. Of course, practitioners of faith over a period of time have contorted the meaning and the instruction to suit their purpose, or what we call cherry picking, or it is okay. It can, you know, it means this, actually, it means that. And, you know, not to single out any one particular faith, but its practitioners, you know, what the book says and what is being followed, many a times there is a huge gap in that. So we can understand that the mind, body, and spirit, currently there is a disconnect. Currently it is a disconnect. Why is it a disconnect? Because this aspect, the spirit, is not an alignment. It's just mind and body. And whatever is coming from the source is just bouncing off as though it's on a trampoline. However, when we change our outlook from the source, you know, to the spirit, the mind and body is automatically taken care of. That's where we're in balance. That's where we are in harmony. So what do the spiritual injunctions and diet talk about? It speaks about a vegetarian diet, as we examined in the previous slide. Then there is the practice of offering bhoga. What does bhoga do? What is bhoga? Bhoga is very simple to understand. Why do we offer bhoga? So for example, let's take food. So you go to ShopRite or wherever it is, and Apna Bazaar, Sabzi Mandi, wherever. And you pick up some vegetables. This is what you're cooking. Now, whom do those vegetables belong to? The obvious answer is me. I paid for it. I went to the store, I paid for it. It belongs to me. You're the proprietor. But still, if you're the proprietor, means you have full control over it. So you bought apples, keep it on your countertop, and now you order the apple. You will not rot in a week or 2 weeks or whatever time period. That apple will start rotting. That's how nature is. You don't control that cycle of that apple. So who owns it? Where did that apple come from? Did it come from ShopRite? No, it came from some farm, from some tree. Where did that tree come from? How did it come about? So if we keep asking this, it comes to a source. And Brahma Samhita says, what is that source? Ishwar Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigra, Anadi Radir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, the causeless cause of all causes. Everything comes from there. So it's only natural. If I'm going to use something like, for example, you have an apple on your countertop, on your kitchen, and I come to your house and I just pick it up and I start eating it. Is that right? Of course, I'm hungry. I'm very hungry. I need to eat to survive. But is that justification that I can just pick up anything and eat? So the bhoga offering is simply an acknowledgement. I need food to eat, and this is what you provided. Thank you. Thank you for these gifts, dear Lord. Otherwise, it is just sin. I'm stealing. I'm literally stealing. And every morsel that I'm putting in is sin. And sin has its consequences. So bhoga is simply whatever we are eating, we offer it to the person who has provided it to us. And that aspect becomes sin-free. Now you may say that, oh, these are, you're just offering it, it's sentimental. Can he really eat? But then that comes to the question of what God can do and cannot do. There are things that you and I can do and cannot do. We are limited. He's unlimited. He's infinite. We are infinitesimal. We can eat only through our mouth. But if there is this restriction that God can eat only through his mouth, then what kind of a God is he? He's a limited God. And a limited God is no God at all. So when we offer to his deity, the deity is a representation of the Swayam Bhagwan himself. He accepts that, and by his glance, by his ears, by his smell, he accepts that offering, he consumes that. And whatever is remaining is sin-free. It negates that karma, whatever is there. And that is called prasad. Prasad literally means mercy. Now, the same principle, it may be implemented differently, is there across all faiths. The same principle of offering. Offering is nothing but an act of gratitude, thanks. When we are having this prasad, it's the mind, body, soul alignment. So we have two options. Okay. Bhoga, in the Vedic culture, it is bhoga. So you say a small prayer, and there's a particular way it is offered. In Christianity, it is grace. Before consuming the food, thank you, God, for all the bounty that you've given us. In Islam, there is dua. In if you go to a Gurdwara where they give you that lovely halwa prasad, before they serve it, they bless it with the kirpan. It's cut. So that's their practice or their way of how they are acknowledging. So an attitude of gratitude negates the karmic servitude. Otherwise, whatever we're putting in our mouth, there is karma, which is trapping the spirit into this endless cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. That's what happens. That's the option 2. Now let's look at the science of vegetarianism. There are carnivores and there are herbivores, broadly speaking. Look at a carnivore's physiognomy. He has a wide jaw. Why? So that he can grasp his prey. It has a wide jaw. The saliva is acidic because that saliva helps break down the flesh components into its nutrients. Long, sharp claws and teeth, the canine teeth, that's why it's carnivore, right? The canines. So that it can tear into the flesh. A carnivore doesn't have knives and forks and whatever else there is. This is how nature has designed that body. And it has a short digestive tract. See the beauty of nature. Short digestive tract. Why? Because meat decays at a much rapid pace than a plant-based, whatever, Bergen or cauliflower. You take a piece of meat, put it on your counter, and you take a Bergen. See which rots first. By evening, the meat will start rotting, and when it rots, it releases toxins. So what happens is the carnivore, he eats it and it is flushed out. It pulls the nutrients and it is flushed out of the system. Whereas an herbivore is exactly the opposite. Narrow jaw. You don't need a wide jaw to eat plant stuff. The saliva is alkaline. Short, blunt nails and teeth, are molars, things like that. And a long digestive tract. Now, when a herbivore, a body that is designed for herbivore, starts eating meat, see the imbalance that happens. First of all, the saliva. Of course, we humans, with our advancement, we cook the meat, we season it with masala, or whatever there is. But that meat is meat, no matter how much dressing we put on it. Just look at the imbalance. And all these toxins not only is hurting our physical cells, but also our mental and the consciousness. Is what is the impact. So here you can see a picture of a carnivore, and here we can see a picture of a herbivore. Now, another point to note when I had mentioned about gluttony, a tiger will die of hunger, but he will stick to his nature. He will not eat grass. Lock a tiger in a cage and put a bundle of grass and don't go for a week. The poor animal will die, but he will not eat that. Whereas a human being, kuch bhi aur kaise bhi chalega. Many years back, I was reading an article and it had created an outrage. And people were saying on terms of ethics, in the UK, United Kingdom, a lady had delivered. And in delivery, the placenta is washed out, extruded from the body. And she and her friends had an event where they actually ate the placenta. Think about it, how horrific it is. And it became a big legal issue. That is this cannibalism. But chalte. Now, taking it a little further, if you see, it may be offensive to our senses that, how can you do this? Oh, they are like barbaric, cannibalism. But then ask yourself a question, is it then okay to eat a chicken or to eat beef? Aren't we being barbarians? Because this is what nature has designed us for. So where do you draw that line? So the animal is more in balance and we humans are in disharmony. Now, what is the impact on our life, on happiness? This is of our country in the US. Meat addiction is linked to obesity. Have you seen the portion sizes that we get here? You go to a restaurant or wherever. It's humongous. Nowhere in the world you get these portion sizes. It's like, those cups every time. I don't go to these fast food and all that, but I see these kids carrying these Cups are like giants. They're like buckets of soft drink or whatever it may be. And it keeps increasing. Now look at our dietary profile in US. 95% is meat-based, 5% is vegetarian. 72% of our population is affected with serious illness, diabetes, obesity, heart, cancer, serious disease. 72%, 72%. 1 in 5 deaths is because of an unhealthy diet. And obviously they have done studies on this. A veg diet is physically and mentally far, far benefits that it brings. I'm not only talking about consciousness, just at the physical and mental plane, as compared to a meat-eating diet. Now let's look at the economics of the diet. What does the World Economic Forum say? Vegetarianism is good for the economy of the community and economy of the country and economy of the globe. If we start eating healthy, 55 billion in cost savings, and it's about 3,000 a family of 4 would serve in food costs. And meat doesn't just kill the animal. Look at the cost. It's not whatever is the cost. I don't know. What is the cost per pound of meat? That's not the cost. There are other costs which are more severe. The environment. You see all this climate change which is happening. It has just happened. Man is messing around with Mother Nature. We are depleting her resources. We are abusing Mother Nature. She's mother. Mother is anyone who nurtures. But we don't even think about it. The paper that we use, the vehicles that we are driving, how we are messing up with the ozone layer on top. It doesn't even strike us. It doesn't even strike us. And of all this pollution, meat industry is the biggest polluter. 18% of greenhouse gases come from the meat industry. Meat means there are these factories for cattle and for pork and for whatever, chicken, things like that. Grains, water, and land. 1 kilo of beef needs 25 kilograms. 25 kilograms is about 50 plus pounds of grain. Just think about it. And 1,500 liters of water, 15,000 liters of water. 30% of the agricultural land of earth is used for livestock. Why? All because of taste, this tongue. Livestock grain drives prices up. If that same grain is used, 3.5 billion humans can be fed. We'll wipe out starvation, literally. The World Food Program, it's very close to my heart. The ISKCON Food for Life. Think about what starvation. Starvation is not hungry. We do one day Ekadashi and we are waiting when it's prana time. And that on Ekadashi, we are not eating grains and beans. We have filled our bellies with fruits and, Ekadashi Prasad. 1 billion, maybe a little bit more now. People in the world are starvation. And it's not that we don't have. People throw grain. Countries throw grain. They overproduce and throw it in the sea to keep the price up. Think about it. Just think about this. Most of us don't know about it. So this is what happens. With a vegetarian diet, we can wipe out. So then you'll say, okay, if I become a vegetarian, what's the big deal? The world is still non-vegetarian, but you've made a difference. Some difference you've made. There's the story, there was a little boy, when the tides come, high tide and low tide. So the tide brought out all these jellyfishes, and jellyfish needs to live in the water. And then it receded back. And millions of jellyfish were on the shore. So this young boy felt sorry, like they were dying. So he used to pick up one jellyfish, go running and throw it in the water, come back, pick it up, go running and throw it into another. Millions, literally millions on the seashore. So man asked him, what are you doing? So he says, I'm throwing the jellyfish back in the water so that it can live. He's saying, what difference will it make? Have you seen how many jellyfishes are here? What difference will you make? Can you throw all of them? The kid said, no. But the ones that I've thrown back, it's made all the difference to them. So us, internal first. Mahatma Gandhi has said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So it starts with us, individuals first. And of course, you all know this, the cruelty. The meat that we get in the store is nicely dressed, packaged with nice labeling and everything else. But there's a lot of violence behind it, tremendous violence. And it kills us all, not just the meat eater. 80% of antibiotics are used by the meat industry, and now they're trying all kinds of stuff, so much so that they were feeding meat to the cattle. And then you had this mad cow disease and all these other things. We humans are becoming antibiotic resistant. 23,000 deaths. These are just statistics, numbers. But more important is, now that we have that knowledge, we should try to put it into practice. What difference will it make to me? What difference would it make to others? Now here's a picture. You see this little baby, this little kid, what they call. Looking at it, someone may say, oh, it's so sweet, or yum, so tender. That's a decision tree. We are not the body, we are the spirit soul. Consciousness is the function of the soul. Along with it, we have that free will, the choice. We have this gross body of our five senses, the subtle body of a mind, intelligence, false ego. There's karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is every action and reaction, that equation. Every action has a corresponding reaction. Vikarma is activities which are really heinous. And akarma is something which is karma-free. Karma and vikarma is what binds us in the circle of birth, old age, disease, and death. And akarma, the very same act that we do, can be akarma. It depends on this consciousness and free will. Everything else is subservient to that. Bhoga Prasad equation, Sattvic offering. As I mentioned, there are these three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. Similarly, even food comes in certain categories. So people ask, garlic, mushrooms, lasan, onions, they're also vegetarian. Why can't we eat it? That's because it agitates the mind in the mode of ignorance. As it is, the mind is agitated, and we're trying to get it on a steady plane. So there is sattvic food, which is offered with love and devotion, gratitude, thank you. In Islam, it's say, Khuda tera lakh lakh shukar hai. Here we offer the prayers, right? Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna. You know the prayers, whoever does that. So when it's offered with love and gratitude, that's when he accepts. He is not in need of anything. He's fully self-satisfied. Atmaram. And that is called bhoga. When bhoga, his mercy, is when he accepts it, that becomes karma-free. And that is prasadam. What does prasadam do? It purifies the gross body and the subtle body. It fortifies our faith and sadhana. So remember, I said about why we need faith to understand stuff which is beyond our limited, a different dimension. It strengthens that. Sadhana is the practices that you do in pursuit of a particular goal. In this case, if it's spirituality, there are certain do's and don'ts. That's called sadhana. And then finally, it clarifies. It clarifies our consciousness, and it clarifies our relationship, who I am and what is my relationship with him. What is my relationship with everybody else? Not just on the level of, oh, she's my wife, my daughter, my friend. Oh, he's also Hare Krishna, I'm Hare Krishna. What is my relationship with that plant outside? What is my relationship with that ant crawling on the floor? It clarifies that literally just by every morsel that we put, we'll have these realizations. So Prabhus, Matajis, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there are any questions, we can do.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Before we go into question answers, can I just make a quick announcement?
Please.
So this way, before, as Q&A and devotees drop off. So I'll just quickly share my screen and all right. So this is our upcoming programs. You can visit our website, iskonofbergen.org. This coming Sunday, the class will be given by Mayapur Chandra Prabhu. The topic is Glories of Hanuman, continuation of Ram Navami, and who else can we think of when we think of Lord Ram, one of the greatest devotee Hanuman. It's also Hanuman Jayanti. Then we also have our daily morning meditation chanting sessions from 6 to 8 if anybody would like to join. It's all on the same Zoom channel. And Friday Bhakti programs, and daily Monday through Friday, 12 to 12:15, 15 minutes of Bhagavad Gita reading on this same channel. So recently we celebrated Ram Navami on our website. If you go, you can see all our pictures from the Ram Navami festival, a beautiful website. You can visit that as well. So at this point, we'll go into Q&A. Very nicely presented. I'll take Anandai Krishna Prabhu can go first.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Amritananda Prabhu, Danda Pranam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for such a beautiful class. Very, very nice information, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So one comment and two questions. So this resonates very much everything with what my Guru Maharaj tries to preach about food. He actually says that we should not be vegetarians, but we should be prasaditarians. We should not be vegetarians, but prasaditarians.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much on everything that you shared with us. Two questions, Prabhu. Yeah. Two questions, Prabhu. The first one being, in the initial few minutes of the class, you mentioned about the scriptures that the Muslims read. I think it's Quran, but I don't know if there's anything beyond that. And you mentioned you were quoting some reference of even the Quran or the Muslim scriptures, not promoting eating meat. What was that reference and from which book was it? I didn't quite catch it.
Prabhu, there is something called surahs and hadith in Islam. So,
Surah and hadith.
Yeah. So Quran is the Quran. That's the main text and the only text, sacred text that is there. And then there are the preceptors, or like how we say a Guru Parampara, right? So similarly, there is in the Hadith are like laws, if you can say, where the Quran, the purport, like how Srila Prabhupada has given purport in our books, right? Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, whatever. So there is a text, there will be the translation, and then what that actual context is. So scriptures are not text, context. So in Islam, the parallel is in Hadith and in Surah. Surahs are like the rules and regulation, and the Hadith are the explanations. So in the Hadith of this particular Prabhu Fayad al-Qadir Sara al-Jami, that's where it says, "O sons of wisdom, don't turn your stomach into graveyards for animals."
Animals, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Surahs and Hadith. You said Surahs and Hadith.
Surah and Hadith. So Surah is like law, but this is from a Hadith where it specifically says, don't make it as grave. In fact, in Islam, that Bakri Eid, you must be familiar with that ritual of Bakri Eid. Prophet Muhammad in that time, it depends on a person's consciousness. And people were almost like animals. Kuch bhi aur kya bhi kuch khate the, indiscriminately killing anything and everything. So Prophet Muhammad made a kind of a rule, regulations that don't just kill anything and everything. This is the thing which is bona fide for you. Partake in this food stuff, meat. And then finally, there is this process of where you do halal. Now, if you see halal, it may seem to be a torture, but there's big philosophy behind it. The animal is slaughtered slowly with a knife. You are cutting it slowly, the neck. the animal, and the blood is draining out, and the animal actually is trembling. I had the misfortune of actually seeing a halal when I was a teenager, and that kind of very disturbing. Even before the animal goes to the slaughter, it can sense. But what is the reason behind this? Is that when you're doing it and you see that fear and the terror in that animal's eye, it's going to touch your soul sometime, somewhere. आपका consciousness पे कुछ तो असर पड़ेगा. However, because it is a ritual and we don't understand what this principle is behind, or the essence of that instruction, and we blindly follow it, like everything else, it loses its purpose and we just get involved in the activity. And more so now, of course, in almost all meat eaters don't themselves butcher the animal. It comes ready-made. So we are far removed from that violence. And in some way, we are fooling ourselves because we feel, okay, this is okay. And you can't blame anyone, because since childhood, this is what has been happening. Chicken nugget, or I don't know, whatever it is. I'm not against meat eating or vegetarianism. I'm not trying to promote, or trying to bash meat eaters. That's your choice we make. Krishna doesn't interfere with your choice. So who am I to interfere with your choice? You make a choice, but please understand that this is the background. And then take your decision accordingly. Does that answer, Prabhu? Any more questions?
Yes, Prabhu, it answers. So one follow-up question on the answer that you just gave about this. So so where did this ritual come from? If they themselves are, if the whole idea of doing the bakri, halal of the bakri, is to instill fear amongst people who are eating it after the fact, right? So who instilled? Where did this principle come from? If you have read or found out about it.
From Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muhammad Paigambars, this was his kya kehte hain, ichha. This is how he wanted it played. And it's very similar to what we have in the time when there were days gone by. Even in the Sanatan, they used to sacrifice animals in the fire. But there was a prayer which is said, just as in this life I'm sacrificing you, next life our roles would be reversed. Of course, in Kali Yuga, there is no qualified. It's another philosophy altogether.
Right.
And you should read by Stephen Rosen. He's Prabhupada's disciple. He has done research in this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He has done research in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more question. Prabhu, when we bring food from a restaurant or we eat in a restaurant, which is not that often, but whenever we still do, that sometimes we offer it to the Lord and then eat it, right? As it's said that we should eat anything that's going in our mouth should be offered to the Lord first. What's your take on it?
My take is, Prabhu, don't take it. Short and sweet. But let me, I'm just being a little light. But I'll tell you the basis. We are a grasti. And grasti has to, either in our relations or whatever it is. So please understand this. Ask yourself these questions. Question your self. That sometimes when I go out and I bring food from a restaurant, or I go out and eat from a restaurant, why do I do it? Now, usually we do it as, probably you're running late from work, you can't come home and cook, so it's easier to pick up, so a matter of convenience. Other way, it may be a matter of change.
Sense gratification.
Yeah, so it'll all come. For the change, it will be, theek hai yaar, ghar ka khana kha rahe hai, let's go and have restaurant food, could change ho jaye. So that's the second aspect. We need this change, or as you rightly said, the senses need to be engaged in something different. So sense gratification is what happens. But even then, because we are conditioned, we are habituated to this, it's not going to happen overnight. So Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj has said is you offer it. It's vegetarian, it hasn't been prepared by the people in the pure consciousness or the consciousness of acknowledgement and gratitude in a loving service to him. So from that aspect, but albeit, you offer it, mentally you offer it. Just acknowledge ki, hey Krishna, this is your gift to us. And thank you so much. It could be just a simple prayer like that. Hey Khuda, tera lakh lakh shukar hai. Something as simple as that is where we are acknowledging it. Slowly and gradually, it brings about a change in our consciousness. But ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is there another alternate? Now, sometimes it becomes a necessity. My profession, Prabhu, is business development. And there is something called wining and dining. And literally, if you go and have a steak rare, I hope you don't have the opportunity to see that. There's blood on the plate, literally. Now, because of my practices, I find it revolting, but then can I sit in judgment on the person who's sitting opposite me? But because of my job, I have to do it. So it's not just the person who's eating the meat getting the karma, the person who butchers the animal, the person who transports it, the person who cooks it, the person who profits from it. So even though I'm not eating the meat, but I'm paying for that bill. So I'm implicated in that karma of that animal's death, that reaction. I'm a participant in that. And I asked Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj what to do. So Maharaj asked me a question, why are you working? So I said, Maharaj, for my family. And again, he asked me this question, why your family? So I was a little perplexed. I said, yeah, my family. Again, he asked, your family. Now I know in my mind that something is not right. My answer is not right. But I was completely, trying to figure out where Maharaj is coming from. So I said, yeah, Maharaj. So Maharaj said, listen, why don't you go with the consciousness that this is Krishna's family and they are caretakers. Of course, you need your job with whatever money that you earn. You have the upkeep of your family, the upkeep of yourself. You can't just be surviving on Hare Krishna, though, of course, if you do it with a lot of intensity and purity, it literally takes care of the physical needs also. But, we are not at that stage. But then if I go with the consciousness that is my family, Maharaj explained, then it's a karma, because that very act becomes an act of devotional service. You have a job to take care of Krishna's family. But the moment it becomes my family, then I am responsible for that karma. So even to that extent, and that is what is called a karma. That is what is called a karma. So similarly as, sorry.
No, I didn't say anything, bro. Sorry.
So similarly as a grihasti, we may have to, as you have your office parties, Christmas parties or Diwali party or something like that. You go to your homes, you go to visit India, people invite you over, your friends call you over. Then ask yourself this, what is more important to you? Is your consciousness doable if able? Once in a way, I attend programs, pravachan, it makes me feel nice at a mental or a philosophical level. Or is this something I seriously want to pursue? If that is something which is really important, and believe me, friends and relatives understand and accommodate, and they're your true friends and well-wishers. They won't impose their stuff on you, and neither should you. If someone asks you, explain why you're a vegetarian, why you're a Krishnatarian. It's not forcing, and don't sit in judgment. Oh, meat eater, karmi, mlecha, this, that, nothing. What do you mean? Just because you're a Krishnatarian doesn't make you any better. It's just that you're very fortunate that you came in association, you got this knowledge. So that's.
Thank you, bro. That's a very good explanation. On a lighter note, I'm sure you get your money reimbursed, whatever you pay for your wining and dining with your colleagues. So that actually is for the company to worry about, not yourself, I guess.
The company also has the karma.
The company
No person is an individual. We all tied to everybody else. We all tied. Everything is connected. It's so beautiful. So yeah, thank you.
I'd asked this question to Ramchandra Babu. I'm sorry, I'm taking just one last bit of comment. It's a little long, I know. I'd asked this question to Ramchandra Babu when I started coming. It was about 7 years ago. And one of my clients had actually sent me a wine bottle on Christmas. And I said, Prabhu, now that I'm coming here, it's been a year. I don't want to accept this. And he gave me a very good suggestion. Just leave it on the cafeteria and, it's up to them. Whoever wants to take it, it's up to them. But I didn't want to be involved. Like Prabhupada says, that don't be involved in, don't be a butcher, don't be a transporter, don't be, Thank you very much for all the sharing.
Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna.
I don't know if we have the time, but there are 2 or 3 people who raised their hand, and Mataji Sham Kishori Devidasi has a question on chat. So Ramchandra Prabhu, as you decide.
Yeah, you can take that question.
So the chat, and then we'll come to Sanket and Gopal Prasad and Dheeraj Pal. I don't know who lifted the hand first, but I'm just reading what is coming across on my screen. So Mataji Shama Kishore Devi Mataji, your question is, tree has a soul. Do fruits and vegetables coming from it also have separate souls? Nice question. So look at it this way. We are Atmas, right? I'm a Jivatma. I have a soul. So is there also a soul in my fingers? Is there also a soul in my hair, my ear? Because Krishna says that he's present even within the space in an atom. He's there. So my body, if you look at it, this matter is full of atoms. What is matter? Matter is nothing atom. So Madhupati Prabhu had explained it very nicely. I had the same question, but in a different way, that if we have just one soul in the body, are there also multiple souls? Because Krishna is in the atom. So he says that is his all-pervading. One of the definitions of Bhagwan, he's omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. Omnipotent means all-powerful. Omnipresent means he's everywhere. And omniscient is he knows everything. And all these things are interconnected. So he's everywhere, therefore he knows everything. You and me are sitting in this room. What is happening in the neighbor's house, we don't know because we are localized. But Krishna is everywhere, so much so even within the atom. So that fruit also, as a matter, when it's connected, it is with that Paramatma, who's, the four-handed form, and it is about the size of a thumb. The physical dimensions is of that thumb. But when he comes in the matter, within the atom space also, that's the all-pervading effulgence. That aspect is there. So fruits and vegetables, whatever, not just when the fruit is connected to the tree, it is live, just as when my hand is connected, there is consciousness spreads all over. But if my hand is chopped off, it just becomes dead matter. But even in that, there is it's not sentient. The consciousness is not there. So even the fruit tree has the fruit and veggies plucked from the trees, also the effulgence, the Krishna and the atom space within the atom everywhere. Does that answer your question, Mataji? Or Ramchandra,
yes.
someone else can answer it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a question. There's another question in the chat which I would like to ask. I would repeat the question. Vegetarian diet most often causes vitamin B12 deficiency. How can devotees overcome this?
What do you want to be in life? Many people say that, "Arey, maas nahi khayega to takat kidhar se aayega?" B12, but it's a fact, a scientific fact, that vegetarian diet causes B12. But if you balance your diet, you can even get all your proteins and nutrients and everything. There is, in fact, the strongest animals are vegetarians. The elephant, he's a vegetarian. So you can get, there are B12 supplements which are vegetarian. I forget what it's called. Incidentally, I am supposed to take B12 because of my medical condition. Similarly, D, our lifestyle has become such that sedentary, indoors, we don't get what Mother Nature gives us, sunshine. Just sitting 5-10 minutes out in the sun, you'll get all your supply you need of vitamin D. But in B12, there are plant-based and there is a derivative from an animal. So if you're running B12 short in your system, then there are these tablets which you would be able to supplement your diet with. I don't know specifically what plant provides the B12. My wife is a dietitian. Maybe I can ask her and revert to you, but I take B12 tablets, those capsules. Sinacoseb, I don't know what that name is, Mataji, but if you're
there are several plant-based.
Yeah.
I can provide the names also to the devotee who asked. Prabhu, there's another one in the chat box. I'll try to read it. It's a little long question. There's an incident in Mahabharata where Arjun was doing tapa for Brahmastra and Mahadev came as Pardhi, and they both killed the pig and claimed to be there. Now it is mentioned that Arjun was hungry and that is why he killed the pig. This is bothering me for a long time. Can you explain?
I'll try to explain. See, understand that first of all, it's survival. One of the basic principles of trying to understand or trying to stabilize the mind and purify our consciousness, one of the 4 regulative principles is no meat eating, correct? Now, Srila Prabhupada, and this is not Srila Prabhupada's rules regulation, this is coming from Parampara, tried and tested. So, Srila Prabhupada in the early days when his disciples used to go out preaching, and they preached even in Russia, and that time Russia was a communist country. They used to throw them in prison and torture them and beat them and all sort of things. So they had to do it in a very clandestine manner and in the winter and all that. And, primarily a meat-eating nation, and there isn't much facilities available. When Bhakti Tirth Maharaj went there, he used to literally eat rotting cabbage from the vegetable markets which were thrown. No one would even eat it. He used to pick that and eat rather than. But what Prabhupada gave the instruction to his disciples, if nothing else is available and you have to eat meat, but do your seva. Of course, now we don't need to take that instruction and say that, okay, Prabhupada has said that, so when something happens, I can do it. But there's a purpose and reason behind it. So for this to understand, the best way is that when certain personalities do certain acts which may seem contrary to whatever is the principle and the philosophies that we are taught and we are practicing, at that point in time is where our faith comes in, because we have to understand that our knowledge and intellect is limited. And that's why we need a bona fide practitioner, a guru or a senior Vaishnava. And he would be able to explain it. In our class before this that I was attending at the ICNJ Sangha, Govardhan Bhakta Prabhu was giving this example of the faith, that faith should be implicit, not blind faith. Prabhupada said, surrender your intelligence, don't surrender your intelligence. So in your guru, the person with whom you have a relationship, that faith should be, and he gave this example that a guru told his disciple, you see that bird, and the bird was a crow. It is white in color. So the disciple got completely baffled. With his eyes, he's seeing it's a crow. It is black in color. Everyone else who sees a crow says it's black in color. You've never seen a white color crow, but still Guru Maharaj is saying it's a white in color. So he got completely perplexed. He says, no, Guru Maharaj, it is black in color. Guru Maharaj says it is white in color. No, Guru Maharaj, it is black. It went back and forth. So the instruction from here, what we get from this particular storyline is that what the guru sees, he sees beyond the external. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, right? Pandita Samadarshana. Who is he? He doesn't see the externals. Every living entity he sees as a spirit soul. You and I see as a white, black, male, female, old, young, educated, uneducated. That's because our understanding is encapsulated just in terms of whatever our perceptions are. But they are transcendental, they're above and beyond all this. So they see things which we don't see. And at times when we see things which is different from what Guru is seeing, and the majority and the world sees it that way, is the Guru wrong? So that's where that faith comes in Guru. And what question of surrendering your intelligence, surrender with intelligence and not surrendering your intelligence. Whatever the Guru says will always be in line, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. There'll be congruence in that. Nothing will be deviation. As it is, Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Prabhupada has given his purports based on whatever he has heard from his gurus and other gurus and the parampara. He's not cooked up something. So in things like this, these pastimes that are there are so many pastimes, and some of them could be really very disturbing also. But recognizes that disturbance is coming through our limitation, and always be in an inquiry mode. Question everything, because everything is questionable, but not in a mood of arrogance. Are, how can this be? No. In a humility of wanting to learn, could you please tell me, what does this mean? I don't understand. And that's where the Vaishnav Sangha, which Rampranja Prabhu and all of you are doing, that's where it, so, my understanding is what I've shared with you, maybe imperfectly, but you can always be asking. Be in a learning mode. Thank you.
Prabhu, a few devotees have raised their hand. I'll go to Sanket Prabhu and then Gopal Govind Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Wonderful class. And we connected spiritual connection to vegetarianism through different religion also. And we saw the benefits and environmental benefits also on this vegetarianism. So there is a new trend going on in the USA and throughout the world of veganism also, which is kind of growing for last 4 or 5 years rapidly. And veganism has a lot of benefits of health benefits, environmental benefits. So can veganism saves the cows, and how that affects our scriptures and our spiritual beliefs?
Of course, veganism will serve not just cows, but all other animals also who are innocently being slaughtered. Yes. So there are different levels of sin. What is sin? Sin is anything which takes you away from your real purpose at a spiritual level. Any act that takes us away is sin. Now, there are sins, there are categories, just like we see, even in crime, there are categories. Yesterday in New York subway, that person went and, put a smoke bomb and he just started shooting people, whoever they arrested him today. That is one category. Now, there could be another category where a person just goes crazy in a subway and starts punching everybody. That's also wrong. It's a violation. That's also wrong. So when it comes to diet, how we can understand it is that there is meat eating, there is vegetarianism, and vegetarianism and veganism is the same. Now, veganism goes with the philosophy that we don't want any animal product because it is cruel to the animal. That's the principle, which is fine. That is a sense of compassion. But that is compassion on an emotional level, so to say, not with a complete understanding. Sentiment, if you may call it that. So what is my purpose? So if I understand who I am, I understand what my purpose is. So if I know I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul, then I do self-realization. You understand who yourself is. And if I understand who myself is, I know that I'm a part and parcel. I'm the infinitesimal part of the infinite whole. That whole we call Krishna. Someone calls him Allah. Someone calls him Jehovah. Different people call different things. Just as where we have water. Water is water. English mein water, Hindi mein pani. In Tamil it is tanni. In Sanskrit it is toyam. Water is water. What does water do? It quenches thirst. Whatever name you call it, it quenches thirst. So similarly, water has that function. Water function is wetness. The function of chili is spice. The function of sugar is sweetness. If you take sweetness out of sugar, it's no longer sugar. So what is the function of me as a spirit soul? So the scriptures say, Jivere Swarupo hai Krishnere Nityadas. The soul is an eternal servant, and we can notice it even when we are disconnected from Krishna. Even when we are not on a spiritual platform, we are always serving. We are always serving I, me, myself, mine. We are serving our senses. That's the nature of the soul, because in service, it derives pleasure. Problem is it gets connected into the material matter. So, Prabhu, with this kind of a situation is you understand who I am and these different levels which are there. Veganism, correct? But higher than veganism is also, because vegan is also sin. Less of a sin, It's not yours. The fruit that you're eating is not yours. And just as if you have compassion for the animal, why don't you have compassion for the plant? Plant is also living. In fact, on Netflix, there was a serial, I don't know if they're still there, What Plants Talk. You'll be amazed by the level of intelligence plants have. We communicate with words. We communicate with writing, script. Plants communicate with chemicals. It's fantastic. They communicate through their roots to other plants. So plants are sentient beings. Now, just because they don't express themselves in the manner in which we understand expression, if I throw a stone on the dog, he'll yelp. And that yelp, I can relate to that yelp because meko bhi maar lagta hai, I shout. But just because a plant can't shout, that means he is not sentient. So what about the compassion for the plant? Then it comes to life. How will you survive? Then that's where the scriptures come and you follow what the scriptures say. You follow what the Guru Parampara says. And end of the day is proof of pudding lies in eating.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for explaining.
Gopal, go in, Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhuji, this is Yogesh. I still don't understand how you are getting karma just by paying for food that is not vegetarian or vegans. Like for example, you're getting a friend from school like a type of food and he wants like non-vegetarian cookies, but I don't know if like you're still gonna like get the karma out of that. So like I'm kind of confused on how you still get the karma.
First of all, thank you so much. What is your name?
Yogesh.
Yogesh. Thank you, dear Yogesh Prabhu. And thank you to your parents also. Very good samskaras. And Prabhupada said question is a symptom of intelligence. You're a very intelligent child. I'll try to answer your question, Yogesh Prabhu. So your question is, I see it also here in the chat. How can you get karma just by paying for food that is not vegetarian or vegan? Example, a birthday gift one of your friends gives you. Correct? It's karma is basically, you see, any act that we do. Karma is action, reaction. So any act that we do, why are we doing it? So that it has some benefit for us. In some way, it's going to benefit us. It is for the self, the benefit of the self. So today is, if you buy a gift for your friend, let's say you go and buy him Pokemon. I don't know nowadays what kids have, but when my son was your age, Pokemon was a big thing. So you buy your friend a Pokemon, you buy him a gift. That gift is an expression of your love for him. So what you're doing is you want to make your friend feel happy. And he accepts that gift. That gift would make him feel happy. Correct? So that act is why we all do these acts for a benefit. You know, either for our mind, to benefit our mind, it makes us feel happy, makes us feel peaceful, or for the body. I'll purchase, you know, some perfume, I'll smell nice. So it is all for ourselves. Whatever we do is for ourselves. So even when I'm receiving a gift, that gift is what is making me, I am in the middle, making me very happy. Sense gratification. And that is karma. So even though I didn't pay it, I received it, I get that karma. Now the degree of karma varies according to whatever is the nature of the act and what your participation in it is. Does that answer your question, Yogesh Prabhu?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy with your question. It's so nice. So nice. Do you chant? Do you do japa?
Yeah, I do 8 rounds every day.
Very nice. Please continue doing that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. May Ramchit Prabhu, may I? ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class, and you put together all so many nice points. It was very helpful. Especially this knowledge is very important when we are working with so many non-devotees and actually favorable devotees, favorable people, but non-devotees. So I remember two questions which I don't have perfect answer for them. So I was in one of the senior management's lunch or dinner, something was there, and my manager was asking me that why don't you eat egg? He happened to be knowing the philosophy a little bit, whatever not. So I said as a non-vegetarian, and he just to give the explanation. Eggs are actually not animals, or like it doesn't have the embryo
So
in there.
who?
Yeah, it doesn't have. Yeah, egg does not have the embryo in that because they are just like milk produced by the cow. And then his philosophy was that
So I'm sorry, Prabhu, could you repeat it again? What doesn't have an embryo?
the eggs,
Eggs. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Anda.
anda that's not like fertilized. It's not fertilized. So because it's not fertilized, it's like milk basically. So that time I did not have answer. After that, I did a lot of research, Google this, that, discussed with a lot of friends. Some answer came in, but I would like to request your, because you have done a lot of research, I would like to see your advice that how we should be addressing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So onions and garlic also don't have embryo. Why don't we eat onion garlic? Because it
No, I mean,
comes
like
in
I'm
ignorance.
going at a different level, like at their level. You have to explain it to them.
Yes. So how we can explain this is, one is because you're familiar with the modes of goodness, passion, ignorance, you will be able to relate to this. Now, someone who's not familiar with this, what do you tell him? So the next question in a language which he would understand is, an unfertilized egg is what? It's literally the menstrual waste of the female bird. That's what an egg is. When it is fertilized, there's a chicken in it. When it is not fertilized, it's the same way with our Matajis. Every species. So are you okay eating the menstrual waste of another living being? So if it is fertilized, it has life. So yes, life is sacred. But then if you're okay with it, that's the choice you make. That's all there is with the eggetarian, so to say. But the eggetarian is less serious karma as compared to eating the chicken itself.
Right. Yeah, all these points become very important for us, and similarly, this Jain philosophy, they don't eat underground roots and all. And when they come across and put these theories, I just bow down. I just tell them, "Thank you. This is another level of your austerity.
Yeah.
Please continue that." But our scriptures and whatever our scriptures tell, that it's more important for us to be staying in Krishna conscious than that getting to the level that which you cannot manage.
True.
So
Perfect response. And see, there is very different strokes for different folks. All size doesn't fit, one size doesn't fit all. So you have your path, and this is what your path says. Prabhupada says, yeah, I've not come to convert you. I've come here to make you a better Muslim, a better Christian. Follow what your scripture says. Yeah. So if your scripture says don't eat underground, whatever, root, potato, this, that, and all, follow it by all means.
Yeah, when irony is that they follow such a complex rules, but when it comes to consciousness of like gratitude, that gratitude is missing grossly, completely. Thanking whom are you thanking? They don't have a vision of the God's existence. So that becomes really very, very disturbing for them.
That's because we are very fortunate. See, it's something like this. Digestion. We eat food, correct? and we chew the food, it goes inside, and then it is flushed out of the system. That's the digestive process, if you say. Now, if your little child comes and asks you, hey, daddy, what happens to the food when I eat it? How will you explain to the child? You'll say, beta, when you eat it, you chew it, na, aise hota hai, it becomes mushy, it goes in your stomach, and then all the vitamins. You'll explain to him at a high level. Now, a teenager comes and asks you, how will you explain to a teenager? So you'll give a little bit more details. Processes digestion, but you'll give a little bit more detail. And that detail will be whatever. You know, this is happening. It takes so much time. The gastric bile is reduced. You know, these juices are enzymes, ye, wo, and all that. Now, if two doctors are discussing the process of digestion, to what level will they be discussing? Oh, this is what is happening in the body. Aisa hota hai, ye hota hai, all these things kick in and all that. So they get into even more detail and depth into it. So same way is our relationship with God. Different faiths are talking about the same thing, but the manner in which it is explained is different. And it is explained in a manner where someone would be able to understand it. Like if you tell your friend who spoke about that egg, unfertilized egg, if you tell him mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, he'll just blink at you. He won't know what you're talking about. But if you tell another Hare Krishna person, he'll be able to figure it out. So similarly, how Islam describes God, how Christianity describes God and your relationship with him, Buddhism, Sikhism, anyone, any spiritual path that we're seeing, how the Mayavadis are looking at it. It's just the level of detail. And because we have come into something which is, I would say, the PhD level, the most detailed, doesn't mean that we're any better off than, you know, someone who's from a different faith. So these are just the way how we, and that's where our gratitude should come in, that we're so fortunate that somehow or the other, you know, someone gave us a book or whatever. Thank you, Yogesh, for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So, Prabhu, do you have a few minutes? There is.
I have.
Okay, so there's two questions that are hands have been raised, and there's one question on the chat. So these will be the last three questions. After that, we'll close the call. The one on the chat in the chat room is, since the current generation, dairy industry involves a lot of harm and violence to our mother cows. Do you think it is okay to consume dairy products?
Yes, Prabhupada said yes. And he gave the example of make a, what did he say? Make the best out of a bad deal. Our very existence is only polluted, Prabhu. Our very existence is polluted. That is Kali Yuga, the nature of your Kali Yuga. So you do the best of what there is. Of course, there are options available. There are options available. Like in our temple, you know, there is this violence-free milk that you get, because even milk has a lot of violence to the cow, mother cow. A lot of violence. But milk is a necessity. So if you're having this, Prabhupada said, yes, you can continue with this. And because we understand this is what a condition is, if you can afford it and you get this milk, it's more expensive than the market price which you have there, because it's not done at a scale. Well and good, you can choose that option. But if not, don't beat yourself up with guilt, because the acharyas say that, you know, it is fine.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think one of the most scientific presentation on vegetarianism. Every point that you made was on spot. So that was beautiful. So Prabhu, a few realizations. Actually, when you were taking us through everything, I was just thinking about a few things. That first thing, when you brought about that quote from Buddhism. We know it, the main tenet of Buddhism is ahimsa. Go to any Thai restaurant, they have Buddha pictures all over, and right in front of his picture, they are selling all sorts of delicacies. And it just boggles my mind to even comprehend that. How does it even, I mean, where are the aesthetics? I mean, that's the simplest bit of aesthetic, and it's not even there. So that's the level. I mean, even our gods have become just decorations on the wall. So I was just thinking about that. Another thing that came to my mind, that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Mahaprabhu is talking to Sanatan Goswami, he says that in Shastra, everything is divided into two categories. And I was so much expecting that, okay, those two categories would be living and non-living, because that's how we perceive it. But then he says it's Thad and Jangam. It's living, it's moving and non-moving. So there is no question of anything being non-living, for the very fact, as you also mentioned, that Paramatma pervades in every single atom. So not only our diet, but everything that we are dealing with, the mud, the cement, the wood that we are using for our household stuff, even that has that spiritual spark which we need to realize and respect. And many people call it in terms of nature and all of that, but it's, after all, it's all Krishna's energy. So
Yes.
when you were talking about it, just unfolded and kind of made more sense. And that's why Prabhupada keeps saying that, even there are living beings on moon also. I mean, we may not see it, but then coming to think about it, that if it is all moving and non-moving, but at the end of the day, everything is living. So even the dust of the moon is living. So
Mataji, a slight correction over there. Yes, you're right. For most of the part, living, there is what is called matter, and there is what is called jiva. Now, jiva, everything is Krishna and Krishnas. There are only two things that ever exist: Krishna and Krishnas, apostrophe S. So Krishnas, what is Krishnas is his energy. Now, there are these classifications of energy where there's a superior energy, there is the marginal energy, and there is the inferior energy. Inferior energy is matter, and matter is not sentient. Now, you gave the example of wood, furniture, chair, any matter you take is not sentient. Now, what it means by sentient is the consciousness. Consciousness is sentience, correct? And only a jiva possesses that consciousness. Now, the jiva can assume many forms, from the invisible bacteria to a gigantic blue whale. There are 8.4 million species, whatever, aquatics and land and air and whatever else there is. So these are the forms that a jiva inhabits. But that form is matter. So right now, this body which I have, and your body and all of our bodies, is matter. Now, in that matter, also there is Krishna, but it is not, it is Krishna's conscience. That matter itself isn't conscious. Krishna is within it, as is Brahman effulgence, like the sunshine, what they call over here. And with the jiva, he accompanies him as the Paramatma. But what you're raising is a very, very important point. Our consciousness is to see everything as Krishna's energy and be respectful and not just treat it as, I'll give you a very simple example. Subah jab hum utke brush karte hai, right? At least I had this habit. I leave the tap on when I'm brushing. We take about 50 gallons of water for a shower, an average person. 50 gallons. It doesn't even strike us for a shower. All that is Krishna's energy and resource. Of course, I needed to clean my mouth and my body and be clean and all that stuff. But I'm oblivious to all these things. So when I become conscious, and that's the beauty of consciousness, it's not just yourself, but everything around you, and not just living, not just dull matter. And that moving and non-moving is, the moving are jivas which can move either on two legs or with two wings or four legs or whatever, mobile. And there are certain things like plants which are stationary. over there. They don't move. I mean, they'll move in a particular upward, but lateral movement nahi hai. So that is the understanding of thing, but very nice. I'm glad you have this realization of we need to be very, very conscious of Krishna and Krishna's activities, obviously, energy, energetic, and the actions.
Right. Thank you for putting it into perspective, Prabhu. That correction was really nice, and you explained it very nicely. I have a question also here. It's that suppose if one member in the family is Hare Krishna and the other members are not, but this one member has to cook also non-vegetarian food and all of that, not out of choice, but out of duty for the family. Otherwise, things are going to get uncircled. So how does karma act in that situation?
Krishna understands you're not doing it for your sense gratification. And this is very common, Mataji. It is not unique. It's a very, very, very common situation. Just pray. Just pray to Krishna. Don't try to force them. Your relatives and friends, they are not forcing you to eat the meat. But if you're cooking it, he understands. Is there a way that you cannot cook it? And if there's no other way that you can't cook it, understand, Krishna, this is my situation. And when it comes to surrender, when someone takes on to the path of bhakti, surrender, that's what Krishna says, sarva dharman parityaja, right? The whole everything comes in one instruction. Surrender everything. Yes, sab bhulo, just surrender unto me. When that happens, which is bhakti, the process is called bhakti. Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj had given this. We all carry our baggage, Mataji. Not in this lifetime, but for many lifetimes. We are carrying a karma. Some of it will get manifest. Some of it is still not yet manifested. That's who we are. When you take to bhakti, karma gets negated. May not be completely negated. Now, the level to which we surrender, to that level, this mountain of karma reduces. So Maharaj gave an example. Because of a karma, the consequence would be that you are beheaded. You have to be beheaded. However, when you come under the shelter, instead of being beheaded, you probably will lose a pinky or would just get a cut or something like that. And more importantly, the beauty is such that our consciousness gets elevated. Then we are not that, I'm doing so many 16 rounds, 20 years I've been doing this, that, and still, why good things happen to bad people. And most importantly, why bad things are happening to devotees. What is Krishna doing? Our consciousness just transforms. And that also we look at it as a mercy of Krishna. Any reversals also, we look at it. Of course, it's at an advanced stage. So at a day-to-day practical stage is first try to see if there are ways and means that it could be. But if not, then, just pray that this is where it is. And it gives you a call to surrender more.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That was very reassuring. Hare Krishna.
All glory to Prabhupada.
Our last question of the night.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm taking your...
my good friend, Amala Prabhu. I hope to meet you in person. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu. So, a wonderful explanation. I heard this question since couple of days. Two questions I have actually. One is, why do we have to consume the milk? Okay, this question is from some non-devotee person. Okay, I know why do we have to consume the milk. Prabhupada explained, our Shastra says, why we have to consume the milk. But they keep debating with me. I'm not good at explaining things, but I tried my best, but still I want answer from you that why do we have to consume the milk? Their argument was, okay, if you are so concerned and you say that, you are so compassionate, then why do you use the cow's milk for your purpose? Why don't you neuter the cow? If you are so concerned about, population of cow, you can neuter the cow and stop the production. So you said, if you not drink the milk and so many cows are there, they'll kill them, they'll not produce the milk and they'll send it to the slaughterhouse and all. Then why don't you neuter the cow and stop production? So I don't have answer for that. That is one question. I have one more question. Let me hear from you first.
The first question, Mataji, it is when we all interact, correct? We are grastis. We have to interact, and we interact with all kinds of people. In fact, everyone is a devotee, by the way. Everyone is a devotee. It's just a matter of time separating them with Krishna. Krishna has a unique relationship with them. So each person has his own perceptions and his or her way of understanding and seeing things. Now, there are people who come and ask you out of curiosity, wanting to know. And there are some people who will come and ask you in a mood of challenging. Hey, Bevkuf, tu kya kar rahe? What's all this drama that you're doing? Yes. Challenging. Okay. If it's someone in a challenging mode, the best response to that is, haan main Bevkuf, thank you. Because you can never ever argue with a fool. All he'll do is pull you down to his level and win. You'll get down to his level and he'll win. He has experience being a fool. So that is one. Now, the other way to explain is by reason to someone who has come about milk. So whoever that Prabhu or Mataji says that, oh, we can neuter the cow and things like that if you stop drinking, population kam ho jayega, and cows do methane gas, correct, which is blowing holes in the ozone. All these things will come up. In such a situation, ask him this question, why don't we neuter human beings? 7 billion humans on the planet. When I was a kid, it was 3 or 4 billion, the population. In my lifetime, it has doubled. What about all the resources that we are taking on Mother Earth? So is neutering the answer? Why am I drinking milk? Now, someone may even go and say the human being is the only animal which subsists on the milk of another beyond its baby stage, even as adults over there. Why you need it? You don't need it. Physically, you don't need it over here. But I'm not just looking physically what I'm saying. The Shastra says, the Guru says, and this is beyond whatever, as I mentioned, our understanding. And that's what we are following over here. Is why I'm doing it. I'm having the milk. So milk to solve population, to stop drinking, cow population to stop? No. You stop eating meat. The cow population is because they're being bred. They are factory farms. They're factories actually. So that's where the problem lies, not with milk drinking. I don't know if that answers it fully, but this is my understanding.
Prabhu, that does answer my question, but I have it's what about compassion? If you are so compassionate, why do you, it's kind of, they think that we are abusing the cow by, sucking the milk, because they also get pain. Whatever method you use, they also feel pain when you, do the milking.
Sure. Sure. Compassion can be sentimental, and there's compassion out of knowledge. I'll give you an example, Mataji. Put it into context, okay? There's a child who gets lost in a fair. A small boy, 5-6 years old, and he's crying, and he's feeling hungry. So one person comes and gets him samosas and kachori. He eats it, he's a little bit happy. And then it starts raining. So another person takes pity on him, brings him inside shelter and gives him dry clothes. He's a little happy. Takes pity on him, compassion ho gaya uspe. Then finally, this person is still crying. He has his clothes, he has his belly full. He wants his daddy. Now the another person comes and he says, hey, I know your father, takes him and brings him back to his home. Father is happy, the child is happy. All three people had compassion. Whose compassion was the greatest? The person who fed him, the person who clothed him, or the person who took him back to his father? All three are compassionate.
Yeah, person who took him back to his father.
Because that's his natural place. And with his father, he'll get clothes, fooding, shelter, everything, food, shelter, everything he'll get over there. So similarly over here, when we do compassion, our compassion is at the bodily level or at the mental level. Compassion is for the soul. And when you have compassion for the soul, automatically the body and whatever other needs are taken care of. That's the root. जड़ को अगर आप पानी दोगे तो पौधा पे पहुंचेगा ना. So in this case, where someone is saying, Mataji, that where is your compassion for the cow? By me drinking milk is not having, how do I say, that violence against the cow is there. And I've been, how do I say, the violence against the cow and milking the cow is there, but it is less violent than beheading it and having it. If there is no factory farm, there is enough milk available all over for mother cow to feed humanity. But we are having these factory farms for meat purposes, and milk is a byproduct of that. Now, if I am the one who stops drinking milk, if I'm stopped drinking milk, and I know so many of our Hare Krishnas are not drinking milk with this particular purpose, that's your individual choice. Can you do without it or whatever it is? And when all these things become a difficulty, the best thing is to go and take the advice of a Vaishnava or a guru or whoever else there is. So from that, it may seem to be hypocritical, so to say.
Yes.
Talk about violence on one end and there is another thing.
Yeah.
It may seem, but again, there are these acts and there are these philosophical points that beyond whatever is our limited understanding is what we go. And yeah, I'm drinking milk, which is causing violence. I would rather not. And if I can afford it, we'll go for the ahimsa milk, where there's no, from Gita Nagari farms also, they have, I don't know if they're still doing delivery of milk, but there are other farms that have that. So we can take that. And so that's my realization and take on it.
Yeah, one more question on the same topic, but different. Onion and garlic. We say that, onion and garlic is tamasic, so we don't consume that. We totally understand that we don't consume that. But how to explain to the people? We say that, it's born out of these and it has tamasic good bodily, they are, definitely benefited, but at the soul level, it's not. So 2 questions they ask. Okay, first is where it is written in Shastra, what words, where is written? And second thing is, how do you prove that it's tamasic? Because, when I'm eating, I'm not tamasic, I'm full, I don't have any anger issue or anything. Then how do you prove that it's tamasic?
It is written in the Shastra. I forget what Shastra it's called, Chandrodaya. I can find out for you, Mataji. In the scriptures, actually the Vedas, over 94 or 95%, deals only with the material sciences. Spiritual is just about 4-5%, about the spirit soul, from which the culmination is in the Bhagavad Gita, and then there's the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavad Gita is there. So where is it written? It is written, I'm afraid I don't have that, but I can find out for you and given. Very clear delineation is given about tamasic, sattvic, and rajasic food stuff. So if a person needs shastric evidence, the shastric evidence is there. But how do you know whatever is written in the Shastra is relevant to you or no? For which you need a bona fide teacher. So that's one point, is about where it is written in Shastra. Now the other point is, if the Prabhu or Mataji is saying, I'm eating onion garlic, I'm fine, मेरे को कुछ असर नहीं पड़ता है, कैसा पड़ेगा? वो कॉन्शियसनेस पे इतना जम गया है over the years. Mataji, I'll give you a very simple example. I come from Bombay. My hometown is Mumbai, correct? And Mumbai is like Florida, very hot and humid, right next to the sea, correct? It's very hot and humid. Now, It's been about 25, 30 years since we've migrated here. Now over here, everything is temperature controlled. If it's cold, you have heated house, heated car seat. You get it? It's just from your house to the parking lot or from the parking lot to your office. Everything is comfortable. Similarly in heat. In Mumbai, if you go into the local train, I don't know if you're from Mumbai or where you're from.
Yeah, I did visited Mumbai.
In rush hour, it's like free body massage, spa, and sauna. सब कुछ हो जाएगा आपका उधर. What was it over there? We got conditioned, right? Every day you take the train to work, come back, dhakka mukki, everything over there. Same body, same Amritananda. Now we've come over here. वो जरा सा भी होएगा कि अरे यार, I need to have. I can't go from when relatives call me. I have to make sure the taxi is air conditioned. मेरे से बर्दाश्त नहीं होते over there. What's the point I'm making over here? Conditioning. Because we have been putting so much nonsense, we can't even. Effect is happening, but we are not realizing that effect. That effect comes with your cholesterol. That effect comes with your diabetes. And it's a gradual, over a period of time it happens. But that effect is happening, that toxins which is being released. Similarly, that garlic and onion, every day we are eating it, स्वाद, हमें स्वाद लगता है वो. अरे क्या taste है. You know, especially कच्चा कांदा with meat is a big thing. Kebab के साथ कच्चा कांदा खाने का. It's so tasty. But when you give it up, and over a period of time you give it up, you're resetting. At that point in time, even the smell of onion and garlic makes you nauseous. Even passing by the aisle where all these meat and things are kept on display, it becomes, it disturbs you just to see the carcasses lying there. But otherwise, we are just happily passing. Not only that, we are buying, we are cooking, we are eating. तो वो उसको अनियन गार्लिक का असर नहीं पड़ता है, which is fine, is because we are conditioned to that. But you can decondition. That's the good part. Matter of getting used to it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.